We are full of sushi, and I'm a very happy man. So this week, we have another interview for you, which we will get to after this, after my story. We're going to talk with Jill Shelley, who is a paranormal investigator from the group St. Croix Paranormal of Stillwater in Minnesota.
Sick.
Is it Minnesota or Maine?
Minnesota.
MN. Yeah, MN?
Yes.
You Googling it?
Yes.
I have an excuse for not knowing.
Yeah. I know it was right. Why do I always question myself? I shouldn't.
The mic's off.
Thanks, Google.
It's telling you, like, in a way, like you bothered it.
Yeah.
Like,
hello, the mic
mic's
is off.
Jeez, I'm in here.
All right.
I'm taking a shit. Leave me alone.
Fucking Greg.
Yeah. No,
Jesus.
you can't come in here and get your toothbrush. I'm shitting. That's what it's like.
Yeah, he's pretty testy. I only set him up. I'm used to my Siri, who is like the Irish Siri, who can be pretty snotty sometimes.
Yeah.
She's like, that's not the right word to say.
Does she really?
Siri. I don't know, but like she sounds like Siri. Oh, say hello. Okay. Siri, say hello. She's
Yeah,
literally
I
not
see
even
what you
fucking
mean.
Answering like,
I see what you mean now. She's ignoring you.
Siri, tell me what the weather's like.
It's currently cloudy and 79 degrees.
And by the way, go fuck yourself.
Yeah,
is
that's
what she'd
exactly.
Say.
It's like passive aggressive bitch.
I'm so full of fish and rice.
We just had some delicious sushi. Very full right now.
Yeah, we got like the big sushi dish from Sam's Club. By the way, it was Adam's first trip to Sam's Club. And it was
overwhelming, to say the least. They had so much stuff there.
I'm doing a lot of heavy breathing because I'm so full.
And I'm doing a lot of heavy breathing because I have asthma. Just in case anybody has ever wondered, why does this guy breathe like a fucking pig? That's why.
So I just got a TikTok, even though I'm not a 12-year-old girl. Or boy, whatever. I'm not a 12-year-old person. Because I thought it was going to be a lot of kids dancing, and I didn't want to see that. But I didn't realize, like Tumblr, you can like tailor it to your likes,
your needs, yeah,
and needs and wants, like what you want to see. Right now, I'm binging this channel called Miss Artist. Basically, she draws scenarios that stand-up comedians talk about, and it's so fucking funny.
Yeah, it is pretty funny. We just watched the whole bit about Mexican Darth Vader.
Yeah, from Trevor Noah's stand-up. Oh man, I fucking love that dude.
Yeah, I am unfamiliar with all comedians, but right before we start, I do just want to say a real big thank you to two of our listeners who bought us coffee this week on our coffee app thing.
Yeah, that is real fucking cool.
Yeah, so Danica and Bree, or Bri, I think it's Bree.
Yeah, I think so.
Anyway, thank you both so much. All that, like, we set that up kind of as let's just see if people want to donate, whatever, that's fine. But there's absolutely no like pressure. We don't have like a monthly subscription or anything like that put up.
Yeah.
But basically it's just so as we can, like this week, for example, we need to buy an external hard drive. We do eventually need to buy like new mics, and we're hoping to buy video equipment and stuff like that eventually as well, so as we can get deeper and deeper into our YouTube kind of stuff, especially now that we're starting to do the weekly Creep Movie Club.
Yeah, and like, I guess if you want to see our faces, we'd be able to do that. But I tried to explain to my mom what this coffee thing was. And like, I was like, yeah, like people donate to us, sort of think of it like a tipping system where it's like, you give good service, you tip your waiter type of situation. But initially she thought it was more like the homeless people that we have in the corners in our city, where they just kind of wave a cup around, because she was like, you might as well be one of those people just shaking your cup around and asking for money. I'm like, whoa, Mom, whoa.
Yeah.
So many things wrong with what you just said.
I figured, because this was all going on in Spanish, but we got like super excited when we saw like these little or these donations coming in, and we were like, oh my god, like people actually like us, this is fucking great.
Yeah, that was the reaction that
and
we
then other people weren't as excited, so
yeah.
But anyway, we just wanted to say thank you so much, Danica and Bree, or Bri, feel free to correct us on that.
Word.
And yeah, for now we don't have any extra content to go along with it, but when we do, for our Patreon, for example, which we will be setting up eventually, like, give us suggestions on what you would like. At the minute, we're toying around with a few different ideas, like ancient mythology, for example. Like, we would focus on one particular region's mythology for a little while until we, learn all about it or something.
Or we can talk about just like weird things in the news, or weird laws that are out there, or just cover weird little shit like that.
But we want to make it so people obviously actually want it. So if there's something specifically that you would like to see us do, like whether that's just extra weekly creep, that's also fine.
That's true. And I think because we don't have like a huge fan base or anything, it's just very, very specific people that really jive with us, it feels like.
Yeah.
It would be really easy to cater to basically this handful of people that basically really like us.
Yeah, and who also we fucking very much appreciate. Also, before we start, I actually got off my arse and made a Facebook group, which we have a handful of people in there, and it's getting more active every day thanks to our members, and it's actually a lot of fun. I don't feel like I'm just wasting my time looking at the same post on Facebook. We're actually interacting, and that's really nice. Anyway, this week I am going to tell you, Dulce, and you, loyal listener, or first time listener, hopefully soon to be loyal listener. So I think it's Irina Cornici, but her whole name is, I think, Marichica Irina Cornici. But people only knew her as Irina anyway, so I'm sorry if I'm butchering that. But one of the girls, or one of the people that I got information from this week, who I'll mention at the end, or I could just mention right now, was Karolina Klipax. She's a YouTuber from, I think, Hungary.
Nice.
And so she seemed to have a lot better pronunciation than me. So
cool.
If she wants to reach out and tell me how to actually pronounce it, I will definitely update it. So there's a trigger warning with today's stuff. We will be talking about a lot of horrible subjects, such as suicide, sexual harassment, and stuff of that nature. So let's talk about Irina, okay?
All right.
Okay, so she was...
I'm not going to say no.
So she was born in 1982 in Arad, Romania, to a violent, abusive, alcoholic mother. And I don't actually know how the father was, but he took his own life in front of Irina when she was quite young. I think like in and around 2 years old or something like that. Shortly after this, Irina's mother left her and her brother Vasil at the Barlad Children's Home, where they stayed until they were adults. This place was not nice, as much as you would assume that a children's home in Romania in the 80s, it wasn't a nice place.
All right.
The staff were all corrupt. Everything at the time was, I'm pretty sure they were still under like communist rule. There was a lot of like rations and stuff like that.
Oh.
When stuff was allocated to the children's home, like the staff would obviously receive the deliveries and then like divvy all the stuff up between themselves.
Oh.
Before the kids even got anything, or if they even left the kids anything.
Yeah.
That's
shitty.
Yeah, like the children were literally starving in this place. They also allowed a German photographer by the name of Pfaff. Now, I did try and find out more on him because he sounds like a scumbag. So they allowed him basically to photograph the children specifically for a child pornography ring.
Gross.
Yeah, and it was with exclusive permission from the fucking staff of the place,
Whoa.
basically. Now, I think they tried to say that they tricked him, or they were tricked into allowing him in, but I don't think that's right. Irina was one of the children who was involved. So when complaints were made about this later, nothing happened because the photographer was like so well connected. As well as this, there was the boys in the orphanage who learned that they could basically take advantage of the younger girls as long as they didn't commit full rape, because that could be proved, and as long as they weren't seen by the staff. But also the staff didn't exactly go out of their way to make sure that the boys weren't seen.
I see.
So Irina, she was a tough little one, and she had heard like stories about what happened to the, girls who were of a certain age or whatever, and she knew what went on. So she decided that she needed to be able to defend herself from an early age. Some sources said that she actually learned karate, but I'm not sure how true this was because, surely you would have to go and pay for karate lessons and stuff like that. But regardless, she was able to fight, and she made sure that the boys knew this, so she was left alone for the most part. So one of the other sources that I didn't personally use for this, but it's where a lot of the information is taken from, is actually a book, well, 2 books, that were written by a BBC reporter specifically about the case, but they weren't released as true crime. They were released as non-fiction novels. Okay, so I don't know what to make of that. But like in some of the excerpts of the book that I was reading, because like there's a lot of it online, like I read like a good chunk of like 20 pages at one stage, but I couldn't find the actual book. But there was other people and like names had been changed and stuff like that. So as far as I'm aware, she had one good friend in the children's home, but specifically in this book they said that there was 2. So I'm not sure which is the actual truth and which just came from the book, or whether it was the same person split into 2 characters kind of thing.
Okay.
One of the girls was Parashiva Angel, I think. Again, sorry. Her nickname was Cheetah. And another girl, again, who I only saw in the book, whose name was Bianca. I think Bianca and Cheetah may have been just Cheetah because the girls became romantically involved and I could only find information on Cheetah like later on. So anyway, she would intimidate these girls. She was like the boss of their little group. And she'd embarrass them and just make them feel like belittle them, you know. And she would use Cheetah in particular to practice her fighting skills on. But Cheetah embraced this. Like these girls were like enamored by Irina.
That's weird.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess like a normal abusive relationship, and a quote unquote normal abusive relationship, you know what I mean? You're looking from the outside going, why is this person with this person?
Yeah.
Like they're monsters.
You
But
think maybe like the masochist found the sadist sort of thing?
that's exactly what I think, yeah. And as well, like I'm sure, like maybe she was the only girl in the orphanage that would talk to Cheetah and stuff, you know? In an interview I saw with Cheetah, she actually said, she used to train with me back at the orphanage. I mean, she really enjoyed hitting me. She said I was very resistant. I could stand the kicks. I really enjoyed it when she was hitting me and I could stand it. I said, hey, if anybody kicks me, I can take it. You kick me, but I can take it. I don't crumble and fall, even if I'm a woman. Her legs were really strong. She used to kick me till my back was all red. So I think maybe, as well as like literally being her punching bag, she might have felt protected at the same time. I felt like this was her kind of training. You know, like I can't fight back, but I can sure as fuck take it. At this time as well, homosexuality was literally against the law in Romania. So I can't even begin to imagine what was going through these young girls' minds. But Irina became outwardly homophobic. But it's also said that these attacks on Cheetah were sexually motivated. So there's a lot of conflicting. I think Irina herself, me personally, based off all the information that I was given, it seems like Irina was falling in love with Cheetah, and there was like some kind of experimentation almost going on. I didn't get down to the nitty gritty with it or anything like that, but this was their relationship.
Where have we heard that before? Where it's like you're gay, but somehow you've related to violence, and that's you're angry because you can't be who you are.
Yeah, exactly.
Who you really are, yeah.
That's always a really good thing to suppress, you know. Also, according to Cheetah, Irina would occasionally say that she would hear her father's voice throughout her years at the orphanage. Very brief mentions of that, but it might make sense later on in the story. So in 2001, at the age of 19, Irina went to live with a foster family in Western Romania. Now, I'm not sure how this works. Maybe it's like a government scheme that the families get paid to take in young adults to get them on their feet, or whether these were like volunteers who, again, just help people get on their feet.
Yeah.
Or whatever. But her brother had already been living with them for a few years at this point. And it was the first family that she ever really knew. So from here, she goes to Germany, where she works as a nanny or an au pair kind of thing for a family for like 3-month stints. So it's really similar to a lot of like student visas, like coming over here. It's just 3 months, you get to go like sample the culture kind of thing, maybe make some more money, and then you go back home again. Now, she was supposed to be saving up the money that she was earning for her and Cheetah to go and live in Germany together, like maybe even buy their own house. So she does this anyway for a couple of years. She goes like a few times and comes back to her family, her new family in Romania and all. And then on April 5th, 2005, she takes Vasil, her brother, to go and visit with Cheetah in Holy Trinity Monastery in Târnacu, Romania. So I don't know what she was expecting from this visit. Like, in all honesty, in her interview, Cheetah explains that... Also, sorry, I'm sure it's not cheetah, like the animal. I think it's cheetah.
Yeah.
You know? Cheetah explains that she had gone to the monastery to live because other monasteries would demand some sort of payment to be made. Almost like a ransom, like, well, you're going to live here, so first you have to sign over all your possessions or your house or whatever. Mm. Whereas this one didn't do that. It really seemed like more of a refuge, like a safe place where a young person could go and serve God and be fed and housed in meager but steady, safe conditions. Like, they only ate, I think, food that they grew on their little patch of land and stuff. Mm-hmm. And when I say when I tried to say monastery, mm-hmm. It's literally just a fairly small house, bare bones. I don't even know if it had like electricity at the time.
I don't even think it had bones.
I don't even think it had bones.
Dumb joke, I know.
But like the interview that I saw with them in there, it was like grey walls and stuff like that. You know, like really basic fucking accommodation, basically, is what I'm trying to say. So when Irina showed up, I would imagine that she was thinking that her and Cheetah might just pick up where they left off and go off and live in Germany happily ever after. But Cheetah was set up there and was well on her way to becoming a nun, or already was one. I don't know how that process works. But she was wearing the garb. She had on her habit and that. Irina was due to go back to her foster family on April 9th, but before they left for the train station, she had an extremely violent, nervous breakdown. According to one source, she was throwing herself on the ground, hitting herself with or on stones, and they thought she was going to attempt suicide. I will just point out here that some of these websites that we're using were Romanian websites translated to English, and some of them had already been translated to English. So some of the things were like a little unclear like that with and on. After calling for an ambulance 3 times to no avail, the nuns were eventually able to get Irina restrained. They put her into a borrowed car and to the Vaslui County Hospital, who took her in for the next 16 days. She began her stay in intensive care, I think on suicide watch, with, quote, the suspicion of major psychosis, unquote. On April 11th, they moved her to the psychiatric ward, where doctors note, quote, heteroaggressiveness, poorly controlled impulsivity, delirium, bouts of fever, unquote. Heteroaggressiveness is aggression to others but not oneself. I looked it up because I just assumed it was something sexual, but it's not. However, after a few days here, she's moved back to intensive care, where she stays until April 24th. Now, this is a direct quote from BBC Romania. Although she was not given a psychological examination to establish a definite diagnosis, Irina Cornici is discharged prematurely and irregularly, with the diagnosis early stage schizophrenia. The previous diagnosis had been disorganized schizophrenia. She is prescribed treatment with Zyprexa, a neuroleptic. The nuns later stated that they did not receive the discharge sheet. The fact that the discharge sheet was not given to the nuns is important because apparently the hospital found out that Irina was actually suffering from late-stage leukemia. And this is why she was so hastily discharged, as the hospital did not want her death to be on the record. This is according to Tatiana Bran, the BBC journalist who wrote the books on the subject. So basically, they didn't want another leukemia death in their hospital's presumably already terrible record. So instead, they just kicked her out on her arse and was like, get her out of here. Maybe if she had come in early when they could have treated it, they would have looked after her. But they obviously knew that there was nothing that they could do. After her time in the hospital, she decided she was going to stay back in the monastery. Why can't they say this word? Monastery, right?
Yeah.
After her time in the hospital, she decided that she was going to stay in the monastery and follow Cheetah's example. And on June 8th, she goes back to her foster family, accompanied by 3 nuns, so she can collect her clothes and the rest of her savings.
Monastery.
Fucking hell, that scared the shit out of me. I was like, who the fuck is that?
It's monastery.
I was expecting a nun to be standing there.
I hope we're keeping that in.
We have to fucking know, anyway. Bastard. Right, I'm just going to go back and read this other bit. So after her time in the hospital, she decided she was going to stay in the monastery and follow Cheetah's example. And on June 8th, she goes back to her foster family, accompanied by 3 nuns, so she can collect her clothes and the rest of her savings. This was to pay for her prescription and for the nuns to take care of her, like her medical bills and stuff. When she gets there, however, she finds that the Stologescus, which is her family, they have actually taken in another young lady to foster and have also spent almost all of her savings, which meant out of somewhere between 3,500 and 4,500 euros, she was left with about 500. Obviously, the money thing was shit.
Yeah.
But I think the most hurtful thing was this, new daughter.
Yeah.
So I didn't see anywhere about how hurt or not she was. But the fact of the matter is, this was the only family type situation she had ever been in. And she was replaced so easily.
Yeah.
Or, I'm assuming,
betrayed, really.
Yeah, So in the time between Irina leaving the hospital and going to collect her things, which was around 6 days or so, the nuns in the monastery had been caring for her and she didn't have any more violent outbursts. But after going home to collect her money, this is when she started to act strange again. According to Cheetah, the nuns, and the head priest at the monastery, Father Daniel Corrogino, Irina had been perfectly fine until she received communion. So the head nun sat down with Irina one day, and the process that they would go through was a list of around 200 sins. Okay? And this was actually to make it a faster process. So usually what would happen was...
That was a fast process?
Yeah, believe me. So in general what would happen was the nun would sit down with her book or whatever, and she'd kind of make a little list of sins. She'd read through them and go, oh yeah, I guess I kind of did do this one. And she'd write it down. So it was like ordering from a Chinese menu.
Okay.
You'd be like, okay, yeah, I did a number 15 and a number 32.
Yeah, I'd love a side of number 2.
Yeah, and I definitely did 67.
Yeah.
So the whole idea was that they wouldn't have to go into detail with the priest when confessing. They would just know which sin that they committed. So this nun, anyway, was actually helping Irina to do it because it was her first time having any sort of confession, and this one specifically. These sins were anything from not believing God, or sorry, these sins were anything from not believing that God would forgive you, to accepting communion while on your period,
What?
to wearing slacks.
That's when we're the most powerful.
That's why, you see. Also wearing slacks or being late to church. And then I just have written ridiculous. I must have been really angry.
With your 2 fingers typing.
Da, 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 da. But yeah, anyway, so like this place, although I think it's Orthodox Christians, but the monastery was like secluded and very cult-like. Especially, like, I think I do get into it a little bit. But anyway, the next day she confessed to Father Daniel. And she was given 1,000 genuflections, which she could do at her leisure, like, 20 here, 20 there, whatever. But she couldn't accept communion until her penance was done.
What's genuflection?
So I don't know if it's
Are
the
they
whole
like push-ups?
Kinda, actually. So like I thought it was just when you get down on your knees.
Oh.
And then get back up again, but
like squats.
But holy squats, yeah. But in this, it actually said it's the full, like, get down and, like, put your head to the ground, then get back up.
Like a burpee.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. Pretty much, except it's holy.
Ah.
There was also other conditions, such as, say, like, fucking so many thousand Hail Marys or Our Father, I don't fucking know. And she can only eat bread and water as well. Which is shocking. Anyway, instead of pacing herself, she did all of the genuflections and all of the rest of her prayers and all that night.
Damn.
Yeah,
She was
1,000,
fit.
right? Well, fit or just fucking, I don't know. The following day, she was given communion, which is when she started to act out. The timeline here doesn't seem to quite add up from the different sources, but the books that Tatiana Brand wrote were released as non-fiction novels, like I said, so I don't know how much liberty she took when actually writing them. It's because in her book, it specifically said it was Easter Sunday, and that's just not true. I looked up Easter Sunday that year, and I'm pretty sure this all happened in, like...
On, like, what, a Tuesday or something?
Fucking Tuesday.
Well, really?
No.
Oh. Sick.
But it wasn't, anyway, the same. The dates didn't add up, so that is all. So just to give a brief insight into how this situation may have looked. While under communist rule, the Romanian Catholic churches were abolished, and all the followers were forced to join the Orthodox Church. I don't know all the ins and outs. I just know that a lot of priests or clergymen were actually incarcerated because they protested and, wanted to practice their own religion. And even just regular, like, churchgoers who stood up against this were, like, murdered by the government. Like, it sounds fucking horrific. I am so dumb when it comes to any of this, actual important history. Like, I'll tell you when Guns N' Roses were formed and where. But ask me, like, about communist regime and all this horrific fucking crimes and all. Haven't a clue. But anyway, this led to a huge reduction in the number of churches and monasteries throughout the country, naturally. And, oh yeah, I have in my notes here, I probably sound very dumb trying to explain something that I don't really know anything about. But it meant, like, in 1989, when the communist regime ended and churches were allowed to operate, there was a huge outcry for priests and monks and that kind of shit. So they weren't exactly being very picky, They were almost just letting anyone in. And then you end up with someone like Daniel Corregino, who had almost no education himself. He was a footballer, like a soccer player. And I think he was trying to make it into the big leagues or something, like a local fucking team. And then backed out of that and ended up he didn't get into university either. He tried and failed. And then enrolled in religious studies as like a backup thing because I guess anybody could do it. He attended this course for less than a year before going to help build and run this monastery with the help of like some fucking local guy was pumping money into the area. He was like, oh, we need a monastery here. Go look after it. So he shows up in a small, uneducated rural village where people believe he is literally like the closest person to God that they have ever met, and they are all now his loyal congregants. He was allowed to go there under the conditions that he continue his education and become an actual educated priest. But obviously he didn't fucking do this because he was an arsehole. And he had been in trouble with the diocese before for how he carried out his sermons and the fact that he would perform exorcisms on his followers like willy-nilly, pretty much. He was said to have been like very medieval in his beliefs and didn't agree with, like, you know, they updated the exorcism fucking handbook or something. I can't remember what it's called, like the guides for exorcism. They updated them in 1999 for the first time since like 12 or something. So, but he was like, no, it's too modern. Like in 1612 or 1617 they had it right. So he like basically was branching off from the church without branching off from the church, you know what I mean? Because he was so secluded that he could just do whatever he fucking wanted.
Yeah.
He was a very fire and brimstone kind of guy.
Okay.
He made his own rules for the monastery, like no men after 4 p.m. and women are not allowed to enter if they're wearing pants or without covering their hair. As far as I'm concerned, he is a good example of a cult leader. Like,
yeah, it sounds like it.
yeah, because as well, like in the monastery is the local church. Anyway, back to Irina. So between June 9th and 10th, she has another episode or breakdown, whatever we're going to call it. And Father Daniel claims that he wanted to take her back to the hospital, but Vasil, her brother, who, as far as I could make out, stayed on in the monastery with her, he wasn't happy with how the hospital had treated her the last time. So instead, they keep her in the monastery and try to tackle the problem themselves. Now, they had gotten used to her outbursts, and usually they wouldn't last very long, and she would calm down on her own. But this time she was threatening them, urinating on the floor. She was threatening to like set her bedroom on fire. And eventually they locked her in her room away from the church because that's where the locals go to church. And I think Father Daniel held an actual midnight mass. Like we have midnight mass at home, but it's like at 9 o'clock when it's dark, you know. But this guy actually had midnight mass, I think daily or at least weekly. So they had her locked in her room so the locals wouldn't see nuns going nuts in the background. This didn't help. She was destroying her room, and so eventually they bound her hands and feet with towels or sheets or something like that, something soft, to prevent her from hurting herself and apparently to stop her from burning the place down as well. So sometime after midnight mass, when all the locals are gone home, Father Daniel decides he needs to perform an exorcism on Irina. He instructs the nuns to actually chain her down and bring her to the front of the church so they could anoint her and say prayers. The nuns think, well, how are we supposed to do that? Right? Boom. Use wood. Use 2 pieces of wood and we can chain her to them so she's easy to transport, maybe, right? Mm-hmm. They literally chained her to a makeshift cross, and from this point they were ordered not to give her any food or water. And other reports say that she actually refused to eat, but like she was hysterical at this point.
Yeah.
And bound on a fucking cross. Mm-hmm. Over the next 2 or 3 days, Irina is kept chained to this cross. She sleeps for long periods of time, and whenever she wakes up, she's having all out raging fits of anger, and even they said she was having seizures. Now they put all this down to the devil being in her.
Yeah.
But can you imagine being in this situation, from passing out from probably screaming so much and having like such a violent panic or anxiety attack from being chained down? Then every time you wake up, you're surrounded by these people fucking chanting and praying over you and covering you with oil the whole time. You're just chained to this fucking cross.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
Because this is literally what happened.
I mean, and I would imagine if you were schizophrenic, it'd be even more terrifying.
Yeah, you know. Yeah. So God only knows what she was actually going through, but every time she opened her eyes, they would pounce on her and start praying and chanting and doing all this shit. Because I'm pretty sure they said that her sleeping was the devil trying to stay inside her. Something like that, something along those lines. They also ended up gagging her to prevent her from swearing during prayers, because that's a sin. And according to one of the nuns, this was just regular procedure for dealing with a possessed person. Another nun said that she had actually begged to be tied up for her own benefit, right, for her own protection. Again, here the timelines differ from various sources. One said she was locked in her cell for 2 or 3 days and then brought to the church for 2 or 3 days, but I can't be sure. That's just a rough timeline. Early on June 15th, Irina wakes up, and this time she seems calm and aware of her surroundings. And for the first time since this whole series of events began, the nuns take her back to her quarters, untie her, and supposedly feed her some bread and water before she falls back into a state of unconsciousness. Now, while she was awake, it said that she was smiling and just, generally happy. Father Daniel said she was fine, she was cured, she fell asleep, and that meant she was better. Soon after this, the nuns realized that Irina's breathing has become unusual. I think this means slow and laboured. Her pulse was weak and the nuns couldn't wake her. At this point, Father Daniel calls 112, which is 911, except in Europe. He claims that he had to call, I think, 3 times and that they took so long to get there. But remember, this is still a remote village. In the ambulance, the paramedics gave her 6 doses of adrenaline, but it was too late. She was dead by the time she reached the hospital. When doctors and nurses saw the condition she was in, they called the police pretty quickly. One doctor reportedly said that Irina had actually been dead for 24 hours. Irina's funeral took place on the 20th of June 2005, and on the 22nd, Father Daniel and 4 of the nuns were arrested for 24 hours, which was soon extended to 30 days. On June 23rd, the bishop, who was over the Tanaku monastery, defrocked Father Daniel and the nuns, which apparently caused more controversy because only a layperson or churchgoer can actually do that. But this guy was just waiting for an excuse to get rid of Father Daniel anyway. And he also closed the monastery down completely. Now, Father Daniel claimed his innocence throughout this whole time. I think it took, it was 2 years before this actually went to trial. A quote from Father Daniel is him saying, "Only God knows why he took her. I think that's how God wanted her to be saved." So in his mind, they performed this exorcism, they removed the devil, and then she went to heaven, a forgiven, clean soul or whatever. They were eventually charged with murder and depriving a person of liberty, which is holding someone against their will.
Yeah.
In 2007. Father Daniel was given 14 years, while Nicoletta Arcalianu was sentenced to 8 years in prison. Adina Sepraga, Elena Otel, and Simona Bardanas each received 5-year sentences. Father Daniel's sentence was later reduced to 7 years, and he was eventually released on parole in November 2011. So in the original autopsy, the hospital said that Irina died from asphyxiation and exhaustion, right? So from being gagged and basically from all the physical exertion that she had gone through the last few days of her life. And the whole time, Father Daniel was saying no, she was alive when she left the monastery. He was blaming the paramedics, to the point where they actually exhumed Irina's body a few years after, right? Now, I don't know whether she was actually exhumed in 2014 or whether this information just came to light in 2014. But a later autopsy stated that the real reason she actually died was an overdose of adrenaline. I read somewhere that some rich businessman follower of Father Daniel had given him his country house that he didn't want to use anymore. So he donated this house to Father Daniel in order to give him somewhere to practice or preach again. But Father Daniel was still excommunicated by the church. Mm-hmm. So I'm pretty sure that he still has this strange fucking weird cult following him to this day. But I could not find any more about him.
I wonder if he changed his name.
I mean, possibly. But then this last quote kind of makes me think that his name is why people would go to him, because he was known then as, it was split 50-50. People were calling him like the Satan priest and stuff for killing her. whereas other people were saying, you know, he did the right thing. Anyway, in this quote from the New York Times, it says, Father Caragino still has strong support in Tanaku, where many people contend Miss Cornici was indeed possessed. Her parents gave her away, and they gave her to the orphanage, and now they're blaming those who took her in and cared for her, said Veronica Tomilescu, a nearly toothless, middle-aged matron with a scarf tied over her hair. It's not as if they actually killed her. They didn't stab her or shoot her. They took her to the hospital alive. So we'll never know. Basically,
Yeah.
part of me is convinced, now maybe this was just the conspiracy theorist, whatever the fuck you want to call it, that there was a payout that changed the, you know, they got in like a corrupt doctor to perform the new autopsy to prove their innocence. But then the rest of me is like, I don't know how much fucking adrenaline one person can handle.
Did you Google it?
No, I'll Google it right now.
It just seemed, you know what? Reading about having too much adrenaline or epinephrine is what this would be, an epinephrine overdose. It doesn't, you can't overdose on it. What can cause you harm is the delay of it being put into you.
Yeah, like that's why they give it to you. Right?
So what's harmful is the delaying of the administration of adrenaline, and underdosing. Those are the bad things about dealing with that, I guess. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess.
So no. I mean, I kind of had a feeling that they probably did pay off someone to reverse it because like what you had said initially about the guy is that he was well connected. I mean, he had a fucking guy donate a big ass house for him. The guy's a cult leader. You know, if you're a good cult leader, you can charm the pants off anyone. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
exactly. And like when I've seen, obviously I'll post photos of this this character because he does look fucking.
He looks like Rasputin, but red.
Yeah, kind of, but a bit beefier as well. But he was actually only 29 in a lot of those photos. He looks like obviously much older because he has that huge ass beard.
Yeah, it adds to the
mystic fucking effect, right?
The what's the word? Aesthetic.
Yeah.
Aesthetic of a wise person.
So anyway, that was the case of
That's
Irina
unfortunate.
Cornici.
That's unfortunate. It sucks because it's like her situation was so shitty, and it sounded like because she was so. It sounded like she was a shitty kid, a shitty teenager because of the shit that she was doing to other people.
Yeah.
And she just got put in another shitty situation, and with a shitty family who replaced her and like spent her money,
Yeah.
you know, and then she ended up in a shitty cult, dying a shitty death, and she had like a, you know, shitty mental illnesses.
But and even the fucking hospital treated her like shit.
Yeah,
like literally saying, "Oh, you're gonna die. No, get out of here!" Like,
yeah,
you know.
Yeah,
so
like
she got dealt the worst hand.
Like there was no winners in the story.
No winner.
There are no
chicken
heroes. Dinner. No heroes either. There's just nothing good about this story.
Thanks. No, I totally agree though. It's just like I was saying the last day when you covered the barfly strangler.
Yeah.
Like it really is. Obviously, Irina wasn't a fucking murderer or anything like that, but it's just another sad story of someone who, if they had been looked after properly,
yeah,
their life could have been so much fucking different.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean to end on a dampener or anything, but these stories were actually requested because, again, through Instagram or something a few weeks back, I was saying, like, you know, what kind of stories you want to hear.
Yeah.
And these ones were specifically because there's been more deaths by quote unquote exorcism that we'll ever know, obviously. But even in more recent times. Like this was only 2005. And the other thing is, like, there's been other more recent ones that there's just not a huge amount of information on right now.
Yeah.
But I'm sure over the next couple of years there will be.
I think it's crazy how when it comes to exorcisms and like people of the cloth or whatever, there's never a in between, because when you talk to Catholics, it's almost like a resistance to science. And then, like it's like, no, it's the devil. And then there's just these shitty people that like to make their own spin-offs of religion, and this is really just cult things, right? And then you have the other end of the spectrum where it's like so science-based, where it's like if it is something otherworldly, they're just so focused on the science part that they don't open their mind up to that possibility, like the Lutherans that we were talking about with Roland Doe.
Yeah. And even in the Demon of Brownsville, like when he went to a certain church, the Baptist or something church that he was in, and the very first priest that he ever went to over the problems in his house, and he was just laughed at.
Yeah.
So yeah, 100%. There's actually a really good episode of Stories with Sapphire where she covers basically finding that balance between what is spiritual, what is medical. Like if you have a cold or you have a headache, yeah, you can take painkillers and it will make your symptoms go away. And if it doesn't return, maybe the spiritual aspect has cleared up by that time. Anyway, you know what I mean? Maybe you're in a better place because you're not concentrating on the pain or something. But if you take the pills and 2 or 3 hours later, this is just for example, I don't mean literally, but then the headache is still there, go to the root of the problem. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, I'm getting sidetracked now, just listening to the sound of my own voice.
Get to the root of the problems instead of just treating the symptoms, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. And maybe it is pills for whatever you need today, but also working on yourself. Maybe the pills will help you work on yourself. You know what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying. I think you're over explaining.
I'm just butchering it. Yeah,
you are.
I'm fucking brutal at this. All right, everybody, stop listening to the podcast. I'm done. No, so coming up next, we have our interview with Jill, who bought her own haunted house.
Yeah, she did. She made sure.
Yeah, she did, actually.
It was. Yeah.
So yeah, do stick around for that and enjoy.
Yeah, enjoy.
So I'm Adam, anyway, and this is Dulce.
Hi.
Hello, nice to meet you guys.
Good to meet you.
Do you want to just jump right into it?
Yeah, let's just get going.
Cool. Right. So tell us what you are. No, tell us who you are and what you do.
Let's see. Well, I've actually been a paranormal investigator for well over 10 years now. And our team was formed in 2010, St. Croix Paranormal. And we ended up traveling all over to well-known haunted locations throughout the United States in search of some paranormal answers.
Cool. That was my next question, was how long have you been a paranormal investigator? Cool. So when was your first paranormal experience?
Well, the first that I can recall was actually when I was younger, maybe, I don't know, 10-ish, maybe. I was actually at my grandmother's house. None of us kids ever liked this one room. It was always cold. You always felt like somebody's staring at you. They didn't want you there. Just very unwelcoming. We all felt uneasy in that room. And one particular night, sleeping upstairs, I woken up in the middle of the night and my back was facing the door. And I heard footsteps coming out of that room and walk and stand in front of the bedroom I was in. I could hear my parents still snoring next door, so I knew none of them have gotten up, and my grandma actually sleeps downstairs, so it would have never been her. And so I was, as a kid, so I was terrified. I was like, I am not turning around. This is really scary. I don't want anything to do with this. So then it just kind of was turned around, and you could hear the footsteps walk back in the room, and I was so scared that I just kind of put the blankets over my head and just tried to go back to sleep, But in the morning, I brought it up and I asked, and my parents were like, no, no, we did not get up in the middle of the night. My grandma just kind of said, well, that's just a ghost, honey, and he's not going to hurt you. And I was like, whoa, if grandma's just like, no big deal, now I really want to know more about him. So that just kind of fueled the fire to start learning more and putting me on the journey to where I am today.
Right on, right on. I think my granddad kind of has a similar response. Anytime I got scared when I was a kid, he would just say, "Oh, a ghost can't hurt you, like, so don't worry about it." I was like, "I don't care. It's still scary." Did you want to?
Yeah, I wanted to know, in your travels, which place that you've investigated is your favorite?
Oh, there's so many. You kind of find a little favorite about every little one of them, like what was the most special moment. But I think I really we've gone to Edinburgh Manor in Iowa probably about 4 times now, just because I really like the interaction that we get there. And kind of for me, the most memorable is the very first time we went there. We had so much interaction with equipment, but we also made connection with a little girl that was there. And we played games with her that night. And then when I got home, as we had got ready to go to bed, and we were just walking out of that room, and she said, I'm going to miss you.
Aww.
So I was always kind of tugging me to always go back and try to communicate with her. And I haven't had actual communication with her since I've been, but I always get something. And it's just always just an awesome place to be.
Wow.
That's cool. Yeah, I have to
Yeah, that'd make me want to go back.
Yeah,
definitely. For the same reason.
So what, in your opinion, what has been the scariest experience, or have you had any scary experiences per se?
Oh yeah. There's been plenty. But the one that probably sticks out the most is when we went to Whispers Estate in Indiana. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
No, I haven't heard of that.
It's known for some very negative energy in the home. The doctor that was there had a lot of body parts buried in the backyard. He did unethical things with his patients. His daughter had an accident in a fire, and so he mercy killed her with an overdose of morphine. There was another little boy that fell to his death in the stairwell, and then the really crabby guy died the day of his retirement in front of his closet. And so they have a lot of really bad things that happen in this closet. So the whole night, just right from the get-go, it was the icky feeling, and everybody felt like they had cobwebs on their faces. Like in the videos, everybody's wiping their face every 2 seconds in the back of their head, and it was just so annoying. And then we saw some wet footprints coming up from the basement that went out to the back door, and none of us had been down there.
Oh wow.
And then just weird, strange feelings, negative in the house. And then we went up into that closet where the people have the bad experience, where people have been locked in, which is the lock kind of goes up, slides over, and drops down. So they have no idea how people are getting locked in. People get scratched and pushed and things in the closet. So of course, we thought, hey, let's go in there. And and it's like a big walk-in closet, because they actually have 2 little chairs and a little small table. So it's a big area. And we were both in the closet, me and Teresa, and I heard this voice in my head that said, get out of this closet. So I just left out of the closet. I didn't say anything to Teresa, because personally, I don't like being in closets. I feel like the door's going to shut and I'm going to get stuck in there, and it just freaks me out. So it's a paranoia of mine anyway. So I just, I didn't relay it. I'm just like, oh, it's me being me. And then the spirit box said, shut this door. And we didn't do that either. So the next thing you know, Teresa and the chair come flying out about 4 feet out, into the hallway. And she's like, something picked up that chair and pushed me. So it was just kind of at that moment was like, oh my God, there is something with this house. So
that's interesting.
That's insane.
That's almost like I think when we were talking to the haunted historian, with time he sort of just developed, or I guess fine-tuned, his sort of sixth sense, right? And it seems like sorry, Cat Max.
That's okay. I love it.
He's nosy. And it kind of sounds like maybe you've gotten the same effect, where it's like you had that voice that told you you need to get out. It's almost like it wasn't something was telling you, or you were anticipating yourself, your intuition was telling you something's about to go down. You need to get out of the room.
Yeah, yeah. It was just, yeah, I've never had that before. I mean, I kind of, when we do investigate, none of us really have any like the special gifts or anything.
Yeah.
I feel like I can feel when they're around though. You just get that feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's kind of about the extent of that. So I haven't had anything ever like in my head, like, you better get out. That was just like the only moment that I ever had, which I'm kind of glad because I didn't want to be the one getting thrown. So luckily.
Yeah, it was kind of a nice warning, actually.
Yeah, it was.
So one question that we generally ask is, have you ever had anything follow you home?
I personally have not, but I've had two. Teresa's had some stuff too, but Alex had something, and he lived in an apartment. He lived in that for years, and no paranormal activity whatsoever. We came home. We tried to pinpoint it. We're not sure where one of our last investigations were, but he started having the faucet in the kitchen turning on by itself, and then it turned into the bathroom faucet turning on, and then the bathtub faucet turning on, and then lights turning on and off. And he's like, all right, something completely followed me home. And his dog would just bark and go crazy. And so this, he knew because that had never happened before. So he ended up just kind of sending it back, kind of, doing a little saging and a prayer and saying, hey, you're not welcome. And he didn't have any trouble. Donna once saw a cowboy like standing at the end of her bed. One time she woke up and she's just like, hello, and then he just disappeared. But nothing like that. And Teresa's had some, sometimes she'll get some doors opening or locking on her, just some weird things, but it's not all the time. So she's not sure if it's something that followed her or maybe it was always there and now they're noticing. She's not sure on that though.
Yeah, I do kind of think like sometimes it's not necessarily that you're bringing anything back, but if you're around an active area or building or something and you come back, like you still kind of have that activity, like it's like coming off you almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a residual thing. I don't know. That's just my personal theory.
Yeah. Could be.
Right, let's talk about this house.
Yeah.
So
did you know it was haunted before you got it, or you went in knowing that it was, or did you find out later?
Well, when I was looking to buy something, nobody really advertises that their house is haunted. I think I actually saw it one time. But other than that, nobody says that. But so I would just kind of search the MLS and find things that I was kind of drawn to. And then as long as it met the certain criteria that I needed. So then I came across the Boyd house and I was immediately drawn to the pictures on it. It was like, I don't know. It was like, I kind of felt like already before I even looked at it, I kind of had to feel like this is the one, So we went down there and my realtor knew when I go, I would do many investigations at places that I looked at. So right away we had the REM pod was going off within 8 minutes after being there. And then we had some really good spirit box responses. One, just the lady said, "Who are you?" Because nobody's ever really communicated with the spirits before. And then we got like the name Bridget. And also, and then too, when we were waiting for the realtor, she was running a little bit behind. So, Donna and I were sitting outside, and I just kind of casually looked at Donna and said, "You kind of feel like somebody's staring at you from that attic window." And she's like, "Yeah, I wasn't gonna say anything, but I kind of feel like, yeah." So, and you did get that feel that somebody was there, but they were standing way back, like they were not really sure on what was going on. So then after that, I spoke with a medium that I really trusted, and she said that she felt that there were 6 spirits there. And interesting enough, she said actually the first night that you stay there, so I hadn't even purchased the house yet, but she already said the first night you're staying there, so she already knew I was going to buy it. She's like, you'll experience the man who comes in from the garden, which I did that first night. I was walking through by the basement door, and all of a sudden there was like a bam, bam, bam on the other side. And so I kind of opened the door and I was checking. There's no way it was, airflow. We debunked that. So it was, and that goes right to the back door. So we think I think that's what she meant by that. And then we actually found out that one of the somebody in town actually sometimes, and I never told them the story, what the psychic said that, oh, sometimes I see a man out there in the garden and then he just disappears into your house. So it was kind of
Whoa.
interesting that that was a good correlation of what was said. And then we had checked with the previous owners, and they kind of blew a lot of it off. You know, they did have some experiences, but they chose not to interact with the spirits. So I think they just kind of came to a happy medium.
Yeah.
But they did say that once in a while they'd hear old-time music, footsteps. A couple times they did see a man sitting in a chair. So they did have some experiences, and just the more that we investigate and learn about more about the property and the spirits there, it's just getting more active, and just, you know, just some crazy stuff's going on.
That's great. And so do you actually live in the house now? Like,
No,
okay.
no, I don't live in it. So, you know, I kind of bought it too as, you know, as our team has traveled to well-known haunted locations is kind of where I got the idea for it. And I thought it'd be really great to have my own, you know, haunted place where I could just do research.
Yeah.
Because one of the fun things about, you know, investigating, like when you go somewhere and you find a name, or you get an attachment to somewhere of the place, you know, it's sometimes it's hard to go back and keep getting more answers to what you're looking for. So you kind of feel like you're missing a little piece of everything.
Yeah.
But with the Boyd House, I can go back anytime I want. And then also with all the other investigators that come, we kind of collaborated a lot of the evidence, and things are collecting and kind of putting the whole piece of the puzzle all together with everybody's help. And it's just amazing, you know, some of the stuff we're learning about.
That's really cool. Like, I like that idea. And like you were saying, even if you get like one EVP one time and it happens to mention a name, but
Yes.
like in 2 years' time, another crew might come in and get, you know, the same name or something else to do with it. And then you go, oh my God, that's to do with this person or this story or something.
Yeah, it's literally a puzzle. Literally a puzzle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the more we find out, the, you know, the funner it is to, and I think that we get more communication. So for sure, that we know that Fred Eckert is there, and he was a really well-respected businessman in town. So he came into town in 1912, and then he also died in the home in 1958, as well as his wife died there. 2 of their children died there. And then we also know of another lady from the 70s who passed away there. You know, all natural causes. You know, but one of the childs was 2 years old, and they had choked to death. So that's how that one. And I don't know how the other child died. So we're just learning a lot of history. But he owned the one of the stores in town. So they had sold, you know, men's clothing, shoes, you know, food, dry good, fancy stuff. They were very well respected. They helped build the Lutheran church. He was on the school board, the fire department. So very well respected man. So we get a lot of EVPs about Fred, and a lot of saying, I am Fred.
Wow.
We've had a medium say she's actually seen him in the living room, which now we just recently found out that's where they died. That used to be their bedroom downstairs. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, so we're learning new stuff here all the time.
Yeah, and like that, you can go back to the town records, and you actually can find out this person's story as well, because you're not going anywhere and they're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So do you think the person in the chair, the man that's been seen sitting in the chair, do you think that was possibly this Fred guy?
I would think so. You know, just kind of when we described to one of the children who saw this, and she was a teenager, I think she said, when she saw him, and then we showed her pictures of Fred. She's like, that's him, that's the guy, that's who I would see.
Wow. And so you say do you guys use, or well, not use, but in your investigations, is there a medium that comes along like all the time, or like one person that sometimes tags along, like you said about the medium?
No, not really. You know, the medium I just use, we can just talk over the phone, and you know, when I sent her pictures of the home, and that's kind of where she read the energies off of that.
Okay.
So,
That's what I was always curious about, because I know like mediums can go into a house and they pick things up, but like, what if like they're not there? Like, how do they do that? So they need to see pictures.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe she could do it with. I didn't ask her. I just asked her if she would be able to do that otherwise. I totally would have had her come down and actually go, but she said that was, something she could do. And she's been right, because she also said that there were 2 women there and also a couple of children. And she said a boy and a girl. The one girl is kind of shy and he hides in the closet. She protects him. We've been finding a lot of that. So we'll hear some children laughing and playing. I've gotten EVPs of kids. And it's been, girls and boys. And definitely the 2 women. We have 1 woman. It's kind of good because we get a lot of the same EVPs, not the same wording, but the same voice.
Wow.
So which is really good. So we have one that it's a lady, but she's really, really raspy voice. Like she smoked a ton of cigarettes in her life. And she's really crabby. So I get a lot of the get outs, don't come in here from her. One time she actually said, Fred's coming. And then my favorite with her is when I was at the house, I was the only one there. My husband was actually, he was either outside or somewhere, but either way, I was the only one in the house. And when I'm there, I just like to just talk and just say, how was your week? Blah, blah, blah. Just like I'm talking to you, just rambling on. And, I think I was cleaning and just talking, because I always put a voice recorder on when I'm there, because you never know what you're going to get. And because I kept rambling on, I kind of just heard her raspy, like, blah, blah, blah. And then he thought, I'm trying to sleep. So
that's so crazy.
Yeah, she was not happy that I was just, talking to her while she's trying to take a nap. So that was kind of like a fun little EVP to catch.
That's crazy. So you're actually getting the characters of the people as well, like coming through, rather than just individual little words or statements here and there.
Yeah. That's so cool. It just sounds like, it doesn't sound, how like you hear a lot of stories and it's like malicious, but this is just like a community of ghosts.
Yeah. And we don't have anything, no bad energies or anything at the house. Everything's just been real good. I actually, they're really polite. I actually had one spirit. It was early in the morning. I was taking all the equipment down, and as I was doing that, you heard a male whisper, "How are you this morning?"
That is so cool.
So, it's like, but, you kind of wish you'd hear that when you're there, though, because then you get home, you're like, oh, I still would have had a conversation with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. But you'll have opportunities. I mean, the house is yours.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we do. I do talk to them a lot. And I do a lot, for them. I've kind of brought the house back to the 1900 period. So we've kind of, renovated that with putting up, like, the old-fashioned wallpaper. The furniture we've gotten in there is all, Victorian style furniture. And, as we're learning more about the family, some people have had the opportunity to talk to the great grandson. And so I'm finding out more about Mr. Eckert and what was in their home. So I'm looking for more things to replace in the home and put them where they had them, just kind of as a comfort thing. And so, yeah, we brought in Victrolas and all kinds of stuff.
That's really nice. So, like you were saying, you're restoring their home for them, essentially.
Yeah, and I think they appreciate that, and a lot of times I'll ask them, hey, I'm thinking of doing this. Is that okay? Now, they haven't never actually answered me on any of these questions, because for the longest time I'm gonna turn this room to library. Are you okay with that? And they seem to like it, and a lot of people like that room too. They kind of congregate, tend to like to sit and think. And I did have a medium that was just there investigating, and I was just watching their video, and they just said they like to come in here and just sit and think. So yeah, I think they kind of like the little library situation I made for them.
That's cool. I'm sure that if you were doing something that they didn't like,
that's
I'm
what I was
sure they
thinking.
would like let you know, whether it's knocking over paint cans or banging on your something.
Or an
I'm
EVP that says stop doing
Well,
this.
the crabby lady, actually, I picked up a picture at the antique store. I was like, oh, this will look great in the bedroom, which is her bedroom. And I put it up that night, and I was just saying, oh gosh, I hope you really like this picture. And I got an EVP when I got home that said, I don't like it. And also that morning at 7 o'clock in the morning, there was like 3 loud knocks right on that wall. So it's like, I don't know if they were trying to knock it off or what. So it's like, but I still left it up there because I like it there. So that's where it's going to be.
Fair enough.
Give and take.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's insane.
So what are your plans with the house?
Currently, we just allow overnight private paranormal investigations for teams to come in, or people if they just want to come in and try to experience anything. And then our team is just kind of going down there when we can, and just doing research there. And that's kind of what we're doing with the house right now. It's it's kind of hopefully the tail ending of the pandemic, so hopefully we can start doing some events and getting some other people in there and get some things rolling.
That's so cool. Hopefully that's this year.
Yes, I'm hoping we got some conferences coming up. I hope they go.
And so, how long have you actually owned the house now? Sorry if you've already said this.
No. Actually, I purchased it. It'll be almost 2 years in April.
Okay, so you had it pre-COVID.
Right.
Okay.
And it was kind of slow going, because getting the word out, and then we were looking forward to actually. Right, I thought it'd be really great for 2020, like everyone did. I'm like, oh, we have all these conferences we're going to promote the house, and then boom. So, but it's actually stayed pretty busy, and now it's just really crazy busy. We pretty much have quite a lot of the weekends booked already.
Cool.
Well, I guess it's perfect for this time because you can go with your self-contained group and do your own thing and not worry about other people. So
Right.
Yeah, like if I were to investigate, I'd investigate with you, so that'd be fine.
Yeah, Jesus, Max. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
So the name of the house again is Boyd House.
Boyd House, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's in Minnesota, right?
Yeah, Boyd, Minnesota.
Okay. Oh yeah. That's because I was reading it earlier on. I was like, I just assumed that Boyd was the family name.
Yeah.
And then when I saw the town, I was like, oh, that's convenient.
Yeah. No, I was like so excited to get it open. It was like I didn't do any research. I probably would have changed the name, but no, I kind of like Boyd House. It's kind of named after the town, and
yeah, absolutely.
So
it sounds like a family name.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so hopefully by Halloween time, say if everything is back opening, we're all vaccinated up and all. Like, what kind of events would you like to have in the house?
Maybe just there was at one time Chris Moon was going to come, the psychic Chris Moon, and do some events there. So I'd probably reach out to, people like that who want to do, different mediums or something that they like to do, and have them come in, because I'd really like to get a feel for what, I love having mediums in the house just because they seem to be right on. And most of the time when they come, they don't know a lot of the things that I know. And so when they tell me things that I know I didn't release out to the public, it's just in my head. It's kind of interesting to correlate that.
That's perfect. Again, for you in particular, like you can almost test these mediums or psychics as they come into the house. You're like, okay, yeah, this.
Like, I'll keep you, that was good. I'll keep your name in my directory. So if I ever should need you, I will talk to you. So, what was I going to say? No, like, I'm generally apprehensive when it comes to investigating places because I'm a big scaredy cat. And, but a place like this seems like a really good, I guess, place to wet my feet.
Yeah, it sounds like a good beginner level venue,
because there's nothing mean in there.
Scared out of it.
You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, we do have a lot of people have said when they're sleeping, sometimes they'll feel like a little tug on their blankets by their feet. Or sometimes they'll just hear children running around laughing. And the first night that my teammate Donna and I stayed there, we didn't have beds yet, and so we had air mattresses blown up in the living room. And she said in the middle of the night she had heard some footsteps come down, like almost like pitter patter or whatever. And then she's like, I felt like something crawl into bed with me and kind of snuggle up with me. And she's like, at first I thought it was you for some reason. And I'm like, why would I get up? And she's like, I don't know. I thought maybe you got scared or something. And I looked over and you were like completely sound asleep. So she's like, well, I just said, oh, well, if you want to sleep with me, sleep with me. And she's like, I rolled back over. So yeah.
Probably like the kids and that are still in the house.
Oh yeah.
Find all this so comforting as well,
That's
just
true.
to have that presence back. So was the house ever like vacant, or did the last owners live there like up until they sold it, or what?
Yeah, I believe they were there for about 30 years actually. So yeah, they
Okay.
spent quite a few years. So I don't think it was ever really vacant. Kind of, you look at the abstract, it kind of goes from one person to another person. For the first few years, it's like just kind of sold on and off, on and off. I think that looked like more. It's kind of a difficult abstract to read, but it looked like that was more before the house was built. So I kind of, it's like the land kept getting transferred, and
Right,
then
right.
eventually when the house got built. So
That's amazing. So you have
Yeah.
111 years or something, isn't that? Right, it was built in
uh,
1910, was it? Or 1901?
1901, 1901.
1901.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
120 years worth of families living there.
Yeah, and then it's really on the kitty corner edge of town. So if we see pictures of it back in the day, it looked like the old Wild West. I mean,
Wow.
the biggest population was 1920 when they had 529 people living in the town.
Wow.
And I got pictures. They had like saloons and bars and restaurants and hotels, and now it's 175 people and there's like three businesses left in town. So it's really changed a lot, but you can imagine some of the history that happened just down the street.
Yeah, yeah.
There used to be directly across the house was the horseshoe, the blacksmith shop was directly across the house, and now there's just another house there. And the town was actually kind of right up on the Sioux Dakota reservation line as well. So there's probably a lot of rich history. Our deed goes back to 1884 when the land was actually owned by the railroad, and the tracks actually run right behind the house as well. So that's probably gets a little bit of energy going and flowing
Yeah, yeah.
too. So there's kind of a lot of history with the town, but when you're talking, trying to find information from 1800s, 1700s, it's really hard to get information. So, but we know there's a lot of rich history there, and who knows what is attached to the land, and anything that's also happened in town. So, and I think too with investigating too, sometimes you almost kind of create a little beacon for things to come and say their piece or hang out or just pass on by.
Yeah, whatever it may be. Especially like that's one thing I have heard is about having the train track so close by, and similar with like having a river on your land, like it can literally just bring energies in and out.
That's true. Like Bobby Mackey's Music World has
Yeah.
a railway next to it.
So, and like you're saying, if you are now this beacon,
Yeah,
like Lord knows what
that
you're
makes
gonna
sense. Yeah.
pick up when you're in there. So, how often do you manage to get down there? Like,
I just kind of, I don't know if there's a certain set time. Some months are busier. Of course, being up in Minnesota right now, it's we were supposed to go one weekend and we couldn't because we had an ice storm, so we couldn't
oh,
go. So it just kind of depends on the weather, but yeah, as much as we can get down there, weekends are usually pretty full with the teams, so we have to kind of work it through our full work schedule. So best we can.
right on. And one more thing as well before we let you go, because I was like snooping on your website before, but there was one picture that I saw of a shadow person on the website. And I can't remember hang on, I think I might still have it open right here.
I think that's from the Ashmore States, is what I think you're looking at.
It could be. Let me just see.
Oh, is this
So, yeah, Ashmore, Illinois. And there you go. But I saw it and I was like, oh no, that's just a person. Like, and they kept going. And then I went back to it and I was like, hold on a minute. That's like the perfect capture of a shadow person. So was that you or one of your teammates that managed to pick
that
it up?
was Donna. She's our photo extraordinaire. She just snaps photos after photos. We usually have like 2,000 or 3,000 photos to go through from when we go, because she's just constant clickety click click click, which is good because then you'd miss stuff.
Yeah.
And you can always compare too. It's like, oh, is that something there or is it not? So you can go back and forth and kind of get that little time capture. But yeah, she caught that one, and you can see it's about a little bit about the height of the camera. So it's probably somebody a little over 4 foot, maybe 5 foot with the camera up like that. So close to 5 feet roughly. Just standing
insane.
there. And that's actually a corner where they do know somebody comes and hangs out. Now I can't remember if it was a male or female. But I do know they like to mess with your cameras, and that particular camera kept getting shut off. And it was plugged in. For one, they had electricity there, And the button where it's actually on off, you have to slide it up and down. It was always in the off position. So yeah, it kept doing that. And so finally I came, but one time, like the fourth time, like, would you just stop? And then so it didn't do it after that.
Wow, that's insane.
Yeah.
Well, we're just gonna have to add the Boyd House to our
list of places to
ever-growing
go.
list. Yeah.
Yes, we'd love to have you out.
I think that'd be the first place I'd want to go.
Yeah, somewhere nice and gentle.
Yeah.
Eat Dulce into it. Well, look, thank you very much for
your time.
Yeah. And,
yes, I enjoyed it.
Have you got anything that you would like to shout out, like your website, for example, and obviously Boyd House?
Yeah, if anybody wants to, come and take a night at the Boyd House, you can find us on stcroixparanormal.com, or you can hit us up on Facebook directly under Boyd House or St. Croix Paranormal. Or you can direct email us at boydhouse217@yahoo.com.
Amazing.
Right on.
Right, so expect an email from us, hopefully, in the future.
All right, awesome. Would love it.
All right, listen, it's been great talking to you. And yeah, we'll have this out probably Friday week.
Okay.
So you can hear it then. All right.
Good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
So that was that.
So that was that. No, when we actually did that interview, we were supposed to release it. This was supposed to be last week's episode. Last week's episode was supposed to be this week's episode. But then the shitstorm happened in Texas, so we ended up pushing it back to now, just in case. Does it matter? It doesn't matter. I'm just talking for the sake of talking. All right. Hope you all enjoyed. And yeah, we'll be adding Jill's house to our list of places where we need to go once the apocalypse is over.
It's actually moved to the top of the list.
Oh yeah, because friendly ghosts.
Yeah, friendly ghosts.
Lots of Caspers.
I love that movie. Did you remember that movie in the 90s?
Yeah, I actually had a huge crush on the girl.
Yeah, so did
What's her name?
Christina Ricci.
Yeah. Kind of wanted
she
to
still
be
looks
that
the
ghost.
same. She doesn't age.
Really? Oh, she's
it's
one of
so
them?
crazy. Yeah. She has good genes. Good genes.
I was going to make a Levi's joke, but I won't. Before I go on, I just want to add my sources from my story this week. So the first one was the documentary The Confession of Andrei Serbin, which you can find on imdb.com. It's actually on the page for the documentary. It's weird. It's all in Romanian, and it's not specifically about Irina. It's actually about a play about the events based on the books that were written on it. So it was crazy. The second one is that YouTuber who I mentioned earlier, Carolina Klipax. She was very good, very helpful. bbc.co.uk/Romania, NY Times, Wikipedia, grunge.com, lareviewofbooks.org, and wordswithoutborders.org. Okay, guys. Sorry for rambling in the earlier half of this. That is all.
Oh, wow. You ran out of words.
Make sure to join the Facebook group. Make sure to check out the Redbubble if you want merch. If you want to just buy us a coffee, click on our fucking coffee thing in our link in our bio. You can follow us on Twitter if you want. Not very active on there, but you can follow us. Instagram.
We're on TikTok now.
What is it? Weekly Creep on TikTok?
Yeah.
Oh, right on. I didn't even know.
It's Weekly Creep on TikTok. Yeah, I was able to secure at Weekly Creep.
Right on.
And it has nothing. There's no followers. I'm following 6 profiles and I have 0 likes. I don't know why. I did like some stuff on here.
Maybe your videos don't have likes.
Oh, maybe. I don't have any videos though.
Yeah, exactly. So when you put videos up, maybe one day we will get a like or 2 on there. So if you're on TikTok, follow us, but maybe we'll eventually... we'll start dancing. We'll start fucking dancing.
Fuck that. But yeah, if you follow us on TikTok, it's more than likely you're going to be talking to me.
100%, yeah. It's going to be Dulce.
Yeah.
Follow us on everything else, and it's me. TikTok is Dulce's new venture.
I would have never fucking thought. Okay, so this is what I'll do. If you're looking for me, if you want to know if it's the right profile, my profile picture for the account is a picture of pork chop. Fan favorite?
Is it an actual picture of pork
Yeah.
chop? Okay, cool. Pork chop, who by the way is doing very fucking well, because I know that she actually is a lot of people's favorite.
Yeah.
Max is still a little prick, but
Yeah.
it's okay.
Well, he's plumping out, so he might come in close second.
Yep.
Yeah.
We make large cats apparently.
Yeah.
Alright.
It's something about this place, something about Texas makes you quite large.
The fact that like broccoli is fried in butter.
Yeah.
I'm not joking. All right, creeps. Thanks for sticking with us.
Yeah, I had a really shitty day at work, but this made me feel better.
Good.
Yeah. I hope we do the same for you. You know, you have a shitty day at work.
Listen to us drown on.
Yeah. Your girlfriend not texting you back. Your boyfriend
Dead.
out over there hanging out with his friends, ignoring you. Your mom won't answer your phone calls. Your sister is being a cunt. You know? I hope we made you feel better.
Are you done?
Yeah. Your brother farted on your pillow and gave you pink eye.
Oh,
We hope you feel better.
yeah, we sincerely hope you feel better.
We hope you feel better.
All right, creeps. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you in a couple of days for our listeners episode.
All right. I love a
and-
listener episode. Yay.
Yeah, me too. One last thing as well. Make sure to go on the Facebook group for the movie club.
Oh, yeah, the movie club.
We got to figure out the dynamics of that still, but it's happening soon.
What movie is winning?
I don't fucking know.
All right.
We'll find out in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
If you have suggestions on movies, famous movies that you've never seen, horror movies obviously, or just your favorite fucking horror movie that you want to share with everyone that maybe not everybody has seen, do it. Send us.
Psychological thriller, suspense movie,
Yeah, whatever fucked up shit it is that you like, we'll all watch it together.
but not porn.
I'll start a different group for that.
Gross.
Weekly peep show. Hey. All right.
My nieces listen to this. Shut up.
I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, because that's not going to happen.
Gross.
All right. Okay, everybody. We're fucking going on.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Monastery.
Fucking hell, that scared the shit out of me. I was like, who the fuck is that?
It's monastery.
I was expecting a nun to be standing there.
I hope we're keeping that in.